Broadcast with the latest coming in on Israel. As tensions have been on the rise between Israel and Syria, with Israeli aircraft striking Syrian military targets hours after thwarting an infiltration attempt. In a rare statement, Israel has acknowledged the strikes in neighboring Syria, saying that the targets included observation posts, intelligence collection systems, and even anti-aircraft artillery facilities in Syrian army bases in Quneitra. Israel also said that they hold the Syrian regime responsible for this attack. In a statement, the defense forces said, and I quote, "The IDF holds the Syrian government responsible for all activities on Syrian soil and will continue operating with determination against any violation of Israeli sovereignty."
Afghan security forces spent much of Monday waiting for the right opportunity to assault ISIL gunmen who had taken over the prison in Jalalabad. In a coordinated attack, it was taken over on Sunday and hundreds of ISIL fighters set free. In the battle to retake the facility, more than 30 were killed, including prisoners and prison guards, soldiers and civilians. 10 attackers died. Their bodies were laid out for the media by the provincial police. ISIL remains dangerous in these parts, and most of its captured fighters in the east of Afghanistan are in this facility.
A United Nations report has now found that North Korea may already be in possession of nuclear devices. The revelation comes a week after Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un claimed complete nuclear deterrence. A panel of independent experts tasked with monitoring sanctions on North Korea submitted a report to the UN Security Council. The report says that Pyongyang probably has miniaturized nuclear devices which can be fitted on ballistic missile warheads. The North's last 6 nuclear tests reportedly pushed the country's nuclear program into the next stage. Now, the UN report accuses North Korea of producing highly enriched uranium and constructing an experimental light water reactor. North Korea could also be looking to improve their nuclear devices by using penetration aid packages and multiple warhead systems.
Spain's former king, Juan Carlos, nowhere to be seen as investigations continue into his involvement in a rail contract in Saudi Arabia and an alleged $100 million gift from the late Saudi king Abdullah. Spain's royal house published Juan Carlos's decision to leave the country. In it, he tells his son, King Felipe, his departure is necessary due to public repercussions from certain past events in his private life. Juan Carlos is credited with helping Spain peacefully restore democracy after the death of dictator Francisco Franco in 1975. But he was tarnished by scandals, including a luxury safari trip which involved shooting elephants during Spain's economic crisis in 2012.
It turns out a 17-year-old was allegedly behind that Twitter hack that broke into the accounts of former President Obama, VP Biden, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Uber, and others. Now authorities say that Florida teen Graham Clark is in jail after the Hillsborough state attorney slapped him with 30 felony charges, including wire fraud, identity theft, and hacking. In just a matter of hours, Clark racked up more than $100,000 in Bitcoin. Authorities say Clark had help from 2 others, 22-year-old Nima Fazeli of Orlando and 19-year-old Mason Shepard of the UK. Once word of their arrest broke, Twitter said in a statement that they were grateful for the arrest and will continue to cooperate with authorities.
U.S. President Donald Trump ramped up his attacks on mail-in voting Monday and vowed to take legal action against the state of Nevada. Earlier that day, Nevada became the 7th state to implement universal mail-in ballots for the upcoming presidential election, citing risks to public health. Trump even hinted at his right to issue an executive order without elaborating on what that might entail.
Well, I have the right to do it. We haven't gotten there yet, but we'll see what happens. We will be suing in Nevada, and that's already been taken care of. We'll probably file something tomorrow.
Trump had slammed Nevada's decision on Twitter, calling it a, quote, illegal late-night coup. The ongoing health crisis has become a divisive issue between Democrats and Republicans, sparking litigation in dozens of states over voter-related issues like absentee ballots, postmark deadlines, and signature requirements.
Ukrainian police detained a man who took a hostage in a bank in Kyiv on Monday, Deputy Interior Minister Anton Gerashenko said. The hostage was released unharmed. Gerashenko wrote on Facebook that the man had entered the bank at midday, told employees he had a bomb in his backpack, and then asked them to call the police. He said the hostage taker was a citizen of Uzbekistan, but gave no indication of his motive. Later, Gerashenko told local television that the man demanded to give interviews to journalists. Police allowed several reporters to talk to the hostage taker before storming the building. In an encounter broadcast live on a Ukrainian television channel, the man was heard to claim to be a Holy Spirit and criticized the country's authorities.
Myrtle Beach as it was struck by Isaias. The water rose to one of its highest levels in more than 4 decades, covering streets while cautious residents remained indoors. In previous hours, there had been some good news, with a hurricane avoiding Florida. As it hit North and South Carolina, Isaias weakened from a Category 1 hurricane to a tropical storm. Electricity flickered, and firemen didn't just have to rescue and evacuate stranded people, they also had to face fires the storm had started. North and South Carolina have been hit by several storms in recent years. This time, weather hazards hit the states as they were already facing another crisis, a growing number of coronavirus infections.
Shifting attention over to Bangladesh, which is reeling under the worst floods the riverine country has seen in decades. And the latest NASA satellite images reveal that nearly a quarter of Bangladesh is submerged in floodwaters. The NASA Earth Observatory has posted 2 satellite images of the country, one taken on June 2nd and the other on July 25th. The image captured on July 25th, 2020 on the right shows an enormous patch of blue on the map where floodwaters have inundated the country. Now, in the June 2nd photograph on the left, the blue patch is much smaller as flooding had only just begun back then. Monsoon rains typically cause some level of flooding in the country every year, but officials say this year's flooding may be the worst in a decade and the longest lasting since 1988.
We're going to turn to Brazil right now to reconnect with one of the biggest stories of last year, the fires in the Amazon rainforest, because new official figures show the situation is getting worse and that this July has had more fires than last July did. These satellite images from Brazil's National Space Agency show there were over 6,800 fires in the Amazon region last month. That's an increase of 28% on 2019. And bear in mind, last year was up on the years before. Well, this matters for a whole range of reasons, not least because the Amazon's the largest rainforest in the world and it acts as a massive carbon store which slows up global warming.
In the US, Seattle lawmakers have expressed their intention to abolish part of the city's police department and replace it with a brand new civilian-led public safety system. This is a response to the ongoing Black Lives Matter protests. The proposed police divestment plan contains a number of key points. It aims at reducing the budget of the local police department and remove certain functions from law enforcement. On top of that, it envisions the creation of a Department of Community Safety and Violence Prevention. But some locals were unhappy about the idea. On Saturday, there was a peaceful rally against it outside Seattle City Hall. The protesters voiced their support for the police and denounced the campaign to defund law enforcement agencies across the country. Demonstrators carried US flags and placards with messages such as "Protect our police" and "Bank the Blue." Steve Pomper, a member of the National Police Association and himself a retired officer, says the local authorities have no idea what consequences their plans could have.